Listen to News in Focus on Radio Al-Ansar, Durban 90.4 and Pietermaritzburg 105.6 FM every Wednesday from 8 p.m. with Yunus Sacoor. That's 8 p.m. every Wednesday, Radio Al-Ansar, keeping you informed.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to another edition of News in Focus live on Radio Al-Ansar International, broadcasting on the frequency Durban 90.4 FM, Pietermaritzburg 105.6 FM, and audio streaming on www.alansar.org.za. Ahlan wa sahlan wa marhaba bikum. The name is Yunus Sacoor, and I will be in your company for the next 2.5 hours, probably, because I have quite a packed lineup this evening and numerous eminent guests in the studio live with me this evening. We're going to chat briefly about the impact of the tariff adjustments in the eThekwini municipalities. There's been a lot of marches, a lot of objections, but notwithstanding the objections, there was a slight adjustment to the proposed tariff, and we've got our guests. We'll be chatting about that going forward. Local government elections is a few months away, about 6 months, and political parties are hotting up in preparation. They're on the ground and they're meeting communities, etc. So we will have some kind of a discussion around those issues. And the third topic is around hate speech, xenophobic attacks, inciting violence in KZN and indeed other parts of the country. We're going to unpack that and exactly what is the way forward dealing with that. Our guest for this evening is Narayan Ganesh, political analyst, party head of NIXA, political commentator, Asad Ghaffar, chairman of eThekwini Ratepayers Protest Movement, Hanif Hussain, DA mayoral candidate for Durban, former MP and councillor, Abdul Valodia, chairman of ORA, president of United for Palestine, and Spepile Mlaba, he's the KZN third deputy president of a new party on the block known as Africa Mayabuya Movement. So there's many new political parties on the block, and they're all making efforts towards municipal elections. Today the date is the 3rd of June 2026, equivalent to the 17th of Zul Hujjah 1447. All of us are aware that last Thursday was a day of Eid al-Adha. I'm sure many people made sacrifices on that day, and the first 10 days of Zul Hajj are the most auspicious days reported by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam. But the balance of the days of Zilhaj are also very, very auspicious days, and whatever good we gained in the first 10 days of Zilhaj, let's continue with that. Now, before we start our discussion and I formally introduce our guests, I want to take a break with a short nasheed, and thereafter play a clip of Madima some years ago, wherein he spoke about oppression and human rights. So catch a listen, and inshallah we'll continue our discussion after this short nasheed break and the clip.
علم ربي من سؤالي واختياري فدعائي وابتهالي شهيد
One of the mistakes which some political analysts make is to think that their enemies should be our enemies. that we can and we will never do. We have our own struggle which we are conducting. We are grateful to the world for supporting our struggle. But nevertheless, we are an independent organization with its own policy. And the attitude of every country towards, our attitude towards any country is determined by the attitude of that country to our struggle. Yasser Arafat, Colonel Gaddafi, Fidel Castro support our struggle to the hilt. There is no reason whatsoever why we should have any hesitation about hailing their commitment to human rights as they are being demanded in South Africa. Our attitude is based solely on the fact that they fully support the anti-apartheid struggle. They do not support it only in rhetoric. They are placing resources at our disposal for us to win the struggle. That is the position.
Mr. Mandela, you've said a number of very controversial things in that last response, and I'd like to come back to some of them when we return.
In Focus live on Radio Al Ansar International. Before the break, I was mentioning that Madiba, our former president, late former president, was an architect of human rights, fought oppression all the way, even whilst he was released from prison. He did not have any malice for those that persecuted him. And this is a kind of a character we need to display going forward in all areas of democracy, including, the political struggle that's taking place at the moment. We know there's a lot of challenges that are taking place, not only at the government sector, but at the municipality level. And we know we sort of 6 months down the line have a very important local government election that's coming. And this is where parties are fighting for the space in this municipal election. So in the course of the next couple of months, we're going to start unpacking the different views of the different political parties, and we're going to deal with topical issues, that affects our communities out there. The biggest challenge we have, and regularly we're talking about these challenges in our programs, is the issue of poverty, not only in South Africa, but throughout the world. And there's many other challenges, and we know what's happening currently in the Middle East and what Madiba is talking about, the oppression that's taking place in Palestine, and America and the West's involvement in supporting the genocide that's taking place there, and all other oppression. And who said that America should control the world's economy? So that is being challenged by China and Russia, and indeed, other countries. And we have to start working towards a democratic world. But it starts with South Africa, where we got our own problems and we have to deal with it. So without much delay, I'd like to introduce our guest this evening. Naren has been with us for quite a number of occasions. He's a political analyst. He's also writes a lot of articles, and recently he responded to the xenophobic attacks and also the hate speech that has been taking place by some members of certain political parties against communities. Naren, good evening and welcome once again to News in Focus.
Good evening, Yunus, and good evening to the listeners. Thanks for having me.
No, it's a pleasure having you. Then we have Asad Ghaffar. He's the chairman of eThekwini Ratepayers protest movement. A few weeks ago, he joined us in the studio. He was chatting about the protest marches that his organization, together with other political parties, formed or undertook towards City Hall. And he also mentioned that there was interaction with the mayor's office, with the CFO's office, relating to the city's budget, as well as why there's a need for no tariff increases. We'll unpack that, later on the show. Asad, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome to News in Focus.
Wa alaikum salam and jazakallah for having me.
Then we have Hanif Hussain. He's a DA mayoral candidate for Durban, former MP and councillor. We hosted Hassan a few weeks ago, and he discussed a lot of challenges we face, not only in eThekwini but throughout the country, and the kind of local government that he envisages together with the DA. And he's going to chat briefly on the impact of the tariffs because his party opposed the tariff as well. Hassan, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome to News in Focus.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Shukran for the opportunity. It's good to be back here.
I know you've been quite busy all day in your election campaign, but you found the time to join us and share some very important information with us.
Always.
Then we have Brother Abdul Valodia, Chairman of ORA, President of United for Palestine. This particular individual sacrificed a lot of his own time, his business, because of his concern for service delivery, not only in and around the Overport area, but indeed throughout the country, with particular in eThekwini. And he's spending a lot of time dealing with service delivery issues, and yet he's a chairman of a ratepayer, also a member of a political party, have been involved with different politics. Abdul, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome to News in Focus.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah, Yunus, and thank you for having me on the show.
Later on, we're going to be joined by Spile Mahilaba, Africa Maibua movement, and we'll chat with him later in the program. But let's kick off with Naren Ganesh. Naren, there's been a lot of chat, about this hate speech that's going on, and prior to this happening, in many years ago, there has also been hate speech by different people, and obviously, our politicians and our civic activists did not accept this, basically, and many of them challenged this particular hate speech, and obviously, Ngizwe Mkundu's racist utterances against Indian, that became a big issue, and you responded. And you mentioned that the furor and outrage at remarks made by this particular individual has to be addressed as a matter of urgency. So you addressed this issue, and obviously maybe you can just run us through exactly what was said and why there was a need for, our sort of civil society to respond to this hate speech, because it's unacceptable. Madiba just spoke about, he doesn't tolerate or he doesn't support oppression in any way. And human rights of people should be respected. That's part of the Freedom Charter. And now you've got individuals that are making these comments. Is it driven by an external force or locally? I just want you to cover what was your reaction, your organizational reaction, and side by side, there are concerns there may be a hidden agenda to this hate speech. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you very much. Look, let me just go back before I address that matter. In 2021, there was a gentleman by the name of Keshlam Gwengwe. He was a member of the EFF, and he made derogatory remarks and racial remarks, threatening the Indian community and referring to them in racial terms. I addressed the matter by taking him to the Equality Court, and after 2 years of trials, I eventually prevailed in securing a verdict of guilty. At that point in time, I had asked the court not to impose a financial penalty or imprisonment, but more a reconciliatory aspect in terms of him making an apology to the community and doing some community work, which the court granted. But coming back to the question that you asked with regards to this Mr. Ngize, the thing is, in society, you'll always get one or two apples who will seek to create division and disruption. Now, South Africa has been a polarized community over a long period of time, more so because we are based on race. Whether we say we are non-racial, we are based on race, and it makes us racial. So every now and then you'll punctuate the narrative with a person who just wants to create some kind of idiotic comment and stuff like that. And with social media now, it's all about likes and hits, so you can earn money from it. But it's a dangerous thing to do, because you might get someone who will act on this kind of words, the words of attack and stuff like that. And if you look at 2021, as recent as that, where we had a so-called racial attack in KZN, we need to prevent these things from happening. So My perception of what this person said was probably just to create hype. Whether he believes it or not, I do not know. But there are people who still hold the narrative of race in their minds, in the hearts and minds, and those things need to change. But it changes at grassroots level, especially like at primary school level, where we inculcate this idea that each one of us is exactly the same. We may look different, talk different, pray differently, but we're all the same. We are South Africans, And that's the basis of where I think we need to look at it. Sometimes we need to extend our hand in reconciliation, even though we are angry, only so that we can create this narrative of one South Africa, one nation, one country. And that's where I see it to be.
Now, what is the way forward regarding this particular hate speech that's taken place?
Well, I believe there has been some organizations who have laid a complaint with the Human Rights Council and Commission, and I think they're going to pursue it in the Equality Court. And there's already precedent now with the case that I'm referring to, that I took, because there's similarities there. There might be a few differences in terms of the mode of how it was brought about, but the basic violation of the Papuda Act, will apply in this matter, as I brought it out in that case at the Amlazi Equality Court.
Now, what's your take on the xenophobic attacks, where Ramaphosa is now reported to have said that he needs to act on illegal immigration as anti-foreigner protest spreads across South Africa? But the fact that the foreigners are here from different countries in Africa and indeed in other parts of the world, these xenophobic attacks have been taking place previously, and those countries are now reacting. So how should we deal with the whole issue?
It's a very disturbing aspect because, look, firstly, the idea of the immigrants in South Africa, a lot of them, it was as a result of poor governance from the Mandela administration, because our borders are porous. We didn't have strict control. A lot of people saw it as an opportunity, some genuinely to come here and make a better life for themselves. Others saw it as a criminal hotspot to proliferate their nefarious activities. My take is, like any other country in the world, immigration is an important aspect. People will move because we are in a migratory village. People seek opportunities all over the world. South Africans going out, other nationalities coming in. As long as they follow the legal route of documentation, because it's the only way to keep control of the people that have come in. There's this talk of undocumented foreigners and stuff. Of course, they need to be addressed. I mean, if you see what Trump is doing in America, he's doing an en masse thing with the ICE, taking all the Mexicans, Puerto Ricans and everybody out of the country. But we need to be civil about it. The sad part is society, our general communities are getting violent against these things, and it's going to lead to more repercussions that we do not want. And I think that has to stop.
I want to bring Hanif in. Hanif, your view on this hate speech and also the xenophobic attacks, because we're currently in the midst of these two things, and obviously some quarters are of concern that there's a third force behind this. So perhaps you want to comment, Hanif?
Let me just speak on this issue around the hate speech. And I mean, it's not the first time that you get people making these crazy comments. I myself had filed charges against individuals previously on issues around fireworks and those type of things. And there's always going to be crazy people saying crazy things. But what gives me hope, and I mean, kudos to Ganesh for taking these things up, because we must. And the courts must do what needs to be done so that people get the right message and behave. But the truth of the matter is the large majority of South Africans want this country to work. And that's not the views expressed of the majority of people in our country. I mean, we all interact with communities of different races every single day wherever we go, in our work environment, in our social environment. And I think I can speak with a sense of confidence that regardless of what race people are, they want South Africa to work. They want to live in a community where we're all treated equally. And so I don't think we must judge the majority of the people in our country based on the crazy comments of a single individual. But of course those things must be dealt with and the processes must be followed, and so that they people who misbehave and break the law, action must be taken against them. So I certainly hope in this particular case that will be. On the issue of the undocumented immigrants, and the truth of the matter is that it's been a long time coming. For the last 30 years, our government failed to invest in our country's infrastructure. They failed to protect our borders. They failed to control the influx of people. And even when people did come into the country without documentation, they failed to deport them in time. Fortunately, Leon Schreiber has been very committed to fixing that problem. And he's focused quite an enormous amount of time and energy and resources in deportation. So just over the last 12 months or so, he was able to deport through the department over 107,000 people, which is more than his predecessor has done in 5 years. So there's a willingness, I think, from Leon to actually contribute to it. But that problem's not going to be solved with overnight, because there are an unknown number of people in the country, millions of them, and it's going to cost billions of rands, billions. So it's not a problem that can be resolved overnight, unfortunately.
Okay, thank you, Hanif. We're going to take a short break. We have a small technical hitch, and inshallah after the break we'll continue our discussion.
Listen to News in Focus on Radio Al Ansar, Durban 90.4 and Petermaritzburg 105.6 FM every Wednesday from 8 p.m. with Yunus Sacoor. That's 8 p.m. every Wednesday, Radio Al Ansar, keeping you informed.
At Amina's Wonder Spice, we know that many of you already enjoy the pleasure of cooking with our 100% pure ginger and garlic. Our unique masala paste have created a new dimension and variety to your dishes. For all these reasons and more, we've called it a Wonder Spice. Amina's Wonder Spice, creating a unique taste in a paste. Available throughout South Africa, neighboring countries and also in the UK. Contact us on 031 577 5023 or www.aminaspice.co.za.
Welcome to Simplex Radio. Visit our showroom for the full range of car audio. Our TV department carries top brands with quality LED panels, full HD to Ultra HD, and now the experience of Super Ultra HD. Visit our theater rooms and transform your home with brands like Onkyo, Integra, Denon, Boston Acoustics, Yamaha and more for quality audio visual experience. Now available, full range of home appliances. A one-stop shopping experience. Call 031 306 4029 or Kenilworth Park, 202 Brickville Road, Overport. Simplex Radio, the name you can trust.
Get ready to elevate your fitness game at First Fitness in Durban's Berea. With a spacious free weight area, award-winning equipment and exclusive ladies-only parking and training level, we've got everything you need to crush your goals. Hit the ground running on our outdoor track or unleash your inner warrior in our MMA and boxing dungeon. Plus, enjoy high security and ample parking. And don't forget to refuel at our Halal Coffee and Health restaurant for the best in coffees, smoothies and healthy eats. Join us today and redefine your fitness journey. First Fitness, dare to be extraordinary.
काबे का रौनक, काबे का मंजर, या रब मेरे नसीब में आता कर। तेरा काबा मैं आँखों से देखूं, दिल से लब्बैक अल्लाहुम्मा पुकारूं। नूर भरा वो काबा का जलवा, रूह मेरी हो जाए शैदा। हर एक धड़कन ये दुआ मांगे, मदीने जाकर रोजा देखूं। या नबी सलाम अलैका, रोज़ाए अक़दस देखना चाहूं। सब्ज़ गुंबद की ठंडी छाँव, आंसू बनकर दिल से बाहूं। सदा हो लब पे मक्का की गलियों में आकर दिल सजदे में गिरता जाए काबा देखूं पहली नजर में रब से मांगू रोकर उस दम तवाफ करूं मैं शौक से तेरे हर चक्कर में इश्क समाए मकामे इब्राहिम पे आकर दो रकत दिल से अदा कर ज़मज़म का पानी पी कर मौला रूह मेरी को तू तर कर सफा मरवा की सही करूं मैं हाजरा की सुन्नत याद करूं मैं हर कदम पे तेरा करम हो हर सांस में तेरा जिक्र रहे मीना जाकर शुक्र अदा करूं अरफात में हाथ उठा करूं या रब मेरी मगफिरत कर दे आज दुआ का दिन है मौला मुज़दलिफा की रात नूरानी रहमत तेरी लगे सुहानी कनकरी चुनकर दिल ये बोले नफ्सो शैतान दूर हो मौला जमरात पे संग बरसाऊं दिल के अंधेरों को मिटाऊं कुर्बानी की सुन्नत अदा कर इब्राहिम का जज्बा पालूं सर मुंडवा कर सजदा करूं मैं तेरा बंदा बन कर जीऊं मैं या रब फिर से बुला ले मुझको काबा तेरा छोड़ ना पाऊं मदीने की जब राह नजर आए दिल ये मेरा आंसू बहाए रोज़ाए मुबारक सामने हो जब लब पे दुरूद ही आ जाए सवाले की बस इतनी तमन्ना काबा देखे ये दीवाना रोज़ाए सरकार का सदका ईमान मेरा रोशन रखना
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome back to News in Focus live on Radio Al-Ansar International, broadcasting on the frequency Durban 90.4 FM, Pietermaritzburg 105.6 FM, and streaming on www.alansar.org.za. Ahlan wa sahlan wa marhaba bikum. Before the news break, we were chatting briefly to some of our guests on the whole issue of hate speech, xenophobic attacks, inciting violence. We had comments from Naren Ganesh and Hanif Hussain. I'd like to welcome Spipile Madaba. He is the third Deputy President of Africa Mayabuya Movement. Good evening, Spipile, and welcome to News in Focus live on Radio Al-Ansar International.
Thank you, Yunus. Thank you very much. Greetings to all the listeners of the station and also the colleagues who are here. Greetings to you as well. Thank you.
Now, Spipile, we know that a lot of immigrants from lots of different parts of Africa and indeed other parts of the world are adding value not only to the economy of South Africa but are also adding value to the working force. And many of them have come, decades ago to seek employment here, and they've bonded and they've joined with our South African brothers and sisters, and we know many of them are running businesses. Like the Pakistani individuals have got businesses, Indian individuals, then you've got from Africa people from Zimbabwe, from Malawi, from Somali and various other parts of Africa. And some of them are astute businessmen in different parts of the country, including in Transkei. Now, suddenly we have this basically xenophobic attacks, which took place some years ago, but it's back again. Now, there is a concern that there may be a third force behind this. to create instability in the country. As our guest mentioned, there's a process to deal with the immigration, and Ramaphosa is now looking at acting on illegal immigration as anti-foreigner protests spread across South Africa. And obviously the borders is cause for concern because how these people are coming in. But if there's documentation like other countries, and these immigrants add value not only to the economy of the country but also, to the working force, then South Africa must understand there's a process to follow. So, Peter, what's your view on this whole thing, and exactly what is the way forward dealing with the immigration of individuals into South Africa?
I think you will agree with me that South Africa is a loving country. We are welcoming everyone in our country, but we can do that as much as we can. One that I need to correct it is that there is a xenophobic that is going on in our country. There's no xenophobic, and we're not as xenophobic in our country. You will agree with me that since 1994 or before 1994, we welcome a lot of people in our country, but we cannot accept the situation where our country the people just come in our country without the proper documentation. I was in Uganda in one of these, I think 2 months back. I went through the processes of immigration. I have to apply the visa. You go to Mozambique as well, it's a near country by us. You also need to go through those processes. They even ask you how many days will be there. They give you maybe 30 days to 90 days. So we cannot accept that thing. It's totally unacceptable that you find that there are people in our country that are occupying our space without a proper documentation. So that's not xenophobic. So the people are sick and tired, of which I support, that all people that are undocumented or are here illegally, they must move and go back to their countries and apply and get a proper documentation in order to work, or whether you want to work or whether you want to open the business. Follow the processes, because we follow the same processes in their countries. So we cannot accept Sacoor. Those people are undocumented, all of them. They leave their country because they're running away from the criminals. Then they become more criminals here in our country because they are untraceable. You got that the people have been raped. Our kids, they are not moving freely. They are unresolved cases up until today that are in the police stations. So we cannot accept it. It's enough. The government is not doing anything because they're benefiting from it. Citizens, unfortunately, they're not benefiting them. So I'm saying there's no xenophobic in our country. Our brothers and sisters, they must go back to their home or to their countries, and they must come back in our country legally, not illegally.
So I think very important you mentioned is there must be proper documentation, but also I think it's important that Narayan mentioned that how do we deal with these illegal immigrants? We cannot take the law into our hands and start attacking them and assaulting them. They have to be reported, and SAPS and the necessary authorities have to act and ensure that they are deported from the country. But very important, and I just want you to disclose your comments on the lack of control in our borders, because this is where the problem arises. And Ramaphosa is talking about, he's going to deal with that issue. So, as you said, it's important that, people must not be allowed to come in through the back door, either corrupt ways or other ways. So perhaps, I want you to comment that there should be strict border controls like when you go into other countries, Spipila.
Yes, look, unfortunately, our government have failed several times to put the systems in place, and then they have tried several times to deport people. Then that day you deport them, the next day they're coming back. I saw the video one day where the Pakistani, they were found in Mozambique. They asked them, where are you going? They said, we're going to South Africa. But where's the document? They said, no, we must come. Who are they? Now, what I would say on that point is that the border management, they must tighten the borders. We've got soldiers in all our borders, Sacoor. We've got soldiers, we've got police, we've got everything. But you find that the people, they are crossing there, they are paying bribes in order to come here. And then you find that there are other political leaders who will say foreigners, they must find an innovating way to come in South Africa. We are inviting them. Those political parties are inviting them, embrace them, which is illegally. Then now, the South African people, there's nothing wrong that they are doing. It's under constitutional. They are mandated by the constitution to say, if they see any illegal activities, they have a right to take whatever actions that they have to. It's part of the citizen arrest. So when we are saying, Sacoor, the revolution is a revolution and no one can stop the revolution. This is a revolution that each and every person who's concerned about our future of this country, they must stand up and leave that thing of I'm this political party, I'm this political party. This thing, it should be supported by all citizens. Let us hold hands together like how we fought with the apartheid government. Let us do that to fight with illegally. It's a ticking bomb. And these people, Sacoor, they are fully armed. They're like a mini army in South Africa. They've got guns that our South African police, they don't have. Even our army, they don't have. Where do they get this gun? Where are they here to work? Are they here for work? Or they're here to fight with us? So we need to stand up in South Africa in all corners. Let us fight with this thing. There's nothing wrong with it. The South Africans are just doing a great job.
Okay, so there's two important aspects that come up for discussion. We're going to close the discussion further. Is basically strict border control and a process of dealing with illegal immigrants, and how do they enforce the legislation to ensure that these illegal immigrants are apprehended. They're not ducking behind closed doors. They don't have documents. They must be asked to leave the country. I want to get to one of the subjects we discussed, and this is where I want to bring in Asad Ghaffar. Recently, eThekwini municipality announced the approval of their budget. That was this Friday, and they approved the tariff adjustments. Now, there was a viewpoint from several political parties that because of the state of the economy, because of poverty in the country, and because of unemployment, which is now close to 33%, and youth are more than 50%, and we spoke about this in several of our programs, that our community cannot afford any tariff adjustments because the existing tariffs are too high. And Asad, when he was in the studio a few weeks ago, he led a protest march with a whole lot of political parties from Curry's Fountain to City Hall, and they handed over a memorandum to the mayor's rep, and there was an assurance that EXCO and the different political parties would look at that proposal, and the proposal that was in that memorandum was no tariff adjustments because it's unaffordable. And at the end of the day, there was a model that was presented that Asad mentioned to the CFO of eThekwini municipality, that if you do these budget adjustments, then there's no need for a tariff increase. Asad, you may have been there in that last council meeting where the budget was approved and tariff adjustments were made marginally, like the rates adjustment was decreased from 5 to 3% or 2%, and there were other drops in the other tariffs by 2 or 3%. Perhaps you take us back to the proposal you made and why it hasn't been implemented. What's your take in the matter, Asad?
Why it hasn't been looked at, or why the municipality hasn't adopted it, is a very good question.
Or maybe I could use the word disregarded, or possibly listened to you and said, I listened, but a few of us have got our own views, and I want to place on record that there's a coalition in eThekwini, and the three parties that supported the budget adjustment, approval of the budget as well as the tariff increases, was the ANC, the EFF and the IFP. So can you go ahead, Asad?
Yes, thanks, Sacoor. So this tariff increase and this budget and this tariff increase has always been a sore point for ratepayers. What we've seen in the past and what we've seen repeated this year is that the municipality put out a figure in terms of the rates increase, electricity, water, sewer, etc., and went on a process of public participation. And then we know after the public participation, they would then announce a decrease of a percentage here and a percentage there. That's the normal modus operandi. We've seen this. It's, every year it's a rinse, repeat. So it doesn't faze us. Because what we do know for a fact is that whilst the municipality is out on this public participation process, at the same time, they were already speaking to National Treasury. So how is it that you're already presenting your final tariffs to National Treasury, but you haven't completed the process of public participation? but we must take a step back. There is no way that the municipality, be it the mayor, the CFO, or anybody else from the administration, would be in a position to go to National Treasury with a figure if that figure wasn't approved by EXCO. Now, who sits on EXCO? We know for a fact that it's the ANC, it's the DA, it's the EFF and the IFP. But at the same time, the DA then said, we reject these tariff increases. So how is it that EXCO went out publicly, or the DA went out publicly, sitting on EXCO, making these comments to the ordinary person, you and me, but sitting in EXCO knowing full well what that figure was going to be, that was going to be presented to National Treasury? Something just doesn't seem right. So it's all well and good that, you mentioned that it was the ANC, it was the EFF and the IFP that pushed ahead, and obviously some other smaller parties that pushed ahead and got this budget passed. But we knew that was going to happen. And that is why we then challenged, or we were challenged, where we, our people, our members of the public challenged the ERPM to go out there and unite all the other parties against the ANC. And that's what we did. We called for a multi-party discussion so that we could discuss this and go as a united front against the ANC. And as you mentioned, quite a few parties did attend this meeting, per the DA. So, there isn't this thing of unity. And the reality is that this ANC needed to pass this budget, God knows why, and it's gone through.
Now, the stats that I've got in front of me, but before I go through the stats during the voting process, and I'm going to ask Hanif to come in, domestic water was proposed at 15%, it was reduced, the final tariff was to 12%, 3% down. Now we know water is a fundamental human rights for human beings, and there's a lot of loss of water, and that this is a cause for concern. Business water from 16 to 13%, domestic sanitation 13 to 8%, business sanitation 14 to 9%, property rates 5 to 2%, refuse 13 to 9.5%, electricity 10.5 to 9%. Now electricity and water are very important consumables, but what is interesting is, the budget passed, and people are commenting because the ANC, EFF and IFP voted together. Now the final vote was for 129 against 62, which was less than half. Now who voted for the ANC budget is the ANC 88, which was the entire caucus, EFF 19, IFP 12, small parties 10. So if you reduce the 41 of the small parties, it would have been 88, and then the ANC would have lost this adjustment. So it was like basically a coalition that voted. Who voted against was DA 49, Action SA 4, others 9. Now residents are asking the question, Hanif, why are rates increasing while service delivery keeps collapsing? That's the first question. Secondly, they're saying there are regular water outages, potholes that are rife all over the city. People are digging, doing repairs, and left like that for months on end. And some potholes are becoming sinkholes, dirty streets, electricity failures. Now, what people are saying is this is what happens when parties campaign for a particular party, or individuals campaign for a party. And 2026 is where residents change the numbers, and we're going to discuss this later on local government elections. Now, in response to Assad mentioned that there were certain challenges, and those in council, have got the authority to make the changes. Perhaps you representing the DA, you want to comment exactly. The DA opposed it, but what was the position at EXCO and in the council meetings?
It was always against it. In fact, the DA has been the only party in council who raised its voice the loudest. Assad's not a councillor yet. I know he's looking for a job. One day he will get there, inshallah, with a few votes there. And then he will have a little bit more information. The truth of the matter is, in every corner of this country, there's only one political party that's fighting for the future of this country. It's the DA. And then every election we get the small popcorn parties coming up. We saw it in the last election. Individuals looking for a job. And then they say some very nice things. And then you don't hear from them again. We saw it. I mean, there was this party called ACC right here. I attended one of the Al-Ansar debates. They were the loudest voices. Got 2 seats. They get a salary for 5 years. You don't hear from them. So we'll see this movie play itself out again. But therein lies the problem, actually. Therein lies the problem. You know why? In the last local government election, there were 17 one-seat political parties. Count there on that list you got. 17 one-seat political parties.
It's 19, yeah.
19?
Yes.
It's even worse. Hopefully it's not 20 with the RPM. But when we got to the local government election on the last occasion, you know, the DA has been fighting now for the last 25 years to try and reduce the ANC's dominance in South Africa. And today the ANC is at its weakest because of us. Because we have been the ones who's raising our voice from the days when you were there in council, right? And so we succeeded in the last election to bring the ANC below 50%, and they only got 42%. And you know who put them back into power? It's those 17 one-seat political parties. 180,000 people voted for these one-seat political parties. And so those 180,000 people who did that, I want to put this to them. As a consequence of that action, we are being punished by the ANC today because those one-seat political parties voted with the ANC for their own personal benefit. So what happened is that voters got scammed by these guys. And we mustn't get scammed again. The truth of the matter is that, and everybody knows this, that we raise our voices the loudest. On the Hussein for Mayor page, I put out a video and a call to the public to say, call these one-seat parties, phone them, email them, WhatsApp them, so that they can vote with us, because we were the first political party that says we're not going to support this budget. And let me explain why. It's important for people to understand it. You asked a very important question, Yunus. Why is it getting more expensive? It's because of the waste. Hundreds of millions of rands are being wasted every single year. And when that money is wasted, the city has to find it somewhere. That's why we get our increases. By comparison to the city of Cape Town, for example, you read out just now between 12 and 14%. City of Cape Town's increase is going to be between 4 and 6%. And that's what you get when you don't waste the money, when you reduce the corruption, when you get rid of the crooks. That's the real issue that we need to fight. So our focus mustn't be on each other. Our focus must be on who the real wolf is in the game. And that we need to get rid of the current government in power and not focus on each other. And that's the only solution to this problem.
Thanks, Hanif, for setting the scene for a vigorous discussion in the next hour. We're going to take a news break, and inshallah we'll continue after the news break.
News this hour, the 3rd of June. The news from Durban 90.4 FM, Pietermaritzburg 105.6 FM. Protest over food sales disrupt teaching at a secondary school. America Monina. Teaching and learning have been disrupted at a secondary school in Lotus Park for a second time this week. Reporters there has been tension at a Durban school after an incident linked to a dispute over food sales on the premises, which left 2 learners injured, raising safety concerns ahead of exams. Education spokesperson Muzima Hlambi says that district officials are working to find a lasting solution to the issue. Chairperson of the school governing body, Biva Shamagam, says that parents and community leaders are demanding urgent intervention. More news. Childline KwaZulu-Natal says communities must speak out against child abuse and neglect as Child Protection Week is observed. Childline says that the neglect remains the most common form of abuse, often linked to poverty and substance abuse. Director Adeshni Naika says warning signs include sudden behavioral changes, withdrawal, unexplained injuries, and poor hygiene. Report says people are encouraged to report suspected abuse to the South African Police Service or the Department of Social Development. Naika says that staying silent can leave a child in danger. She added that protecting children is everyone's responsibility. More news. Local media says President Ramaphosa delivered the presidency budget. He says the government prioritizes water supply.
Another critical priority we outlined in the State of the Nation address is to urgently resolve the water crisis in our country that is affecting many parts of the Republic. Drawing on our experience in ending load shedding, we have established the National Water Crisis Committee, coordinated from the center of government. The committee has begun the implementation of the National Water Action Plan to address the weaknesses in the management and delivery of water services. Through the plan, we are pursuing both immediate relief and lasting structural reforms. In the short term, national government will intervene directly in municipalities.
Back home here in KwaZulu-Natal, Commander of the Hawk Serious Organized Crime Investigation Unit in Durban, Gavin Jacobs, claims he was not part of a plot to have a large consignment of drugs stolen from a police storage facility. In June 2021, Jacob led a drug bust at the Ispingo depot in Durban, where 541 kilometers of cocaine was seized from a shipping container. However, the confiscated cocaine was later stolen from the Hawks offices in Port Shepstone a few months later. Jacob had this to say earlier today.
Animal feed, and it's got a peculiar smell, it's got a peculiar texture, color, all of that, and you got a little bit of this residue coming out of the bags as well. So that's what I noticed. These bags you could clearly see there were some product, it's got that food kind of smell to it, like dog food sort of. So it was merely by visual observation and looking through and seeing there's no anomalies in the rows that were packed, there's no height differences. It was not a thorough inspection, but we did come back to further inspect it on the 1st of July.
Why? Why did you go back on the 1st of July?
For the purpose of being thorough, to make sure that nothing further was there, also to release this container to the intended consignee.
What I don't understand is why did you not find the need on the 22nd of June to be that thorough? Why did you have this brainwave a week later?
Commissioner, if you look at it, it was 5,395 50-kilogram bags.
Finally, international story. Kuwait says Iranian drone and missile strikes that hit a terminal at its international airport killed one person and wounded dozens of others, inflicting significant material damage. Iran's Revolutionary Guard Corps, however, says retaliatory strikes should serve as a lesson for the United States after it fired a barrage of missiles and drones at Kuwait and Bahrain. Your weather, it's 22 degrees. A quick reminder of our top story. Teaching and learning have been disrupted at a secondary school in Lotus Park for a second time this week. Report says it is over dispute over food sales in the school premises. That's the news.
This segment is brought to you by Kenfield Auto, your RMI approved service and repair specialist. 236 Brickfield Road, Overport.
Kenfield Auto. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. ربنا هب لنا من أزواجنا وذرياتنا قرة أعين واجعلنا للمتقين إماما.
Car won't start.
Kenfield Auto.
Noisy brakes?
Kenfield Auto.
Due for a service?
Kenfield Auto.
Kenfield Auto, the answer to all your car problems. Your service and repair specialist for your VW, Audi, Suzuki, Toyota, or just about any vehicle. Kenfield Auto, your RMI and insurance approved workshop. Follow the red and white board in the passage at 236 Brickfield Road, Overport. Call Shafi on 031 207 2399. Kenfield Auto.
Gaza needs your support more than ever. Homes have been shattered and families have lost everything. With your support, our teams are delivering clean water tankers, feeding the hungry and assisting orphans who have no one left. Let us give Gaza whatever help we can. African Muslims Agency, empowering, educating, inspiring.
Durban Halal Meats, the butcher with a twist. Whether you're firing up the braai or stocking up for your business, we've got you covered. From premium lamb, beef and chicken to custom cuts and bulk orders, all 100% halal, certified by Sanha. Enjoy our convenient buy and braai service, fast delivery and easy online ordering at durbanhalalmeats.co.za. Visit us at 84 Felix Dlamini Road, Durban Halal Meats. Quality, affordability, trust. Meat made better.
At Absa Islamic Banking, we get that the first lessons about money are never just about money.
2, 3, 400.
And what do we do with it?
We save some and we give some.
That's my boy. They're about responsibility, generosity, principles, and banking that honors your values. Get an Islamic youth account for your children, plus discounted banking for your spouse with Ultimate Islamic Banking. Apply online. Your story matters. Absa. T's and C's apply. Absa is an authorized financial services and credit provider.
Listen to News in Focus on Radio Al-Ansar, Durban 90.4 and Pietermaritzburg 105.6 FM every Wednesday from 8 p.m. with Yunus Sacoor. That's 8 p.m. every Wednesday, Radio Al-Ansar, keeping you informed.
Allah, 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 Allah,
امتحان لاکھوں تنے ہیں سامنے بیٹھا ہوں میں مایوس کن آئے نہ کوئی مجھے تھامنے اللہ اللہ تو میری سن لے صدا حسبنا اللہ ونعم الوکیل حسبنا حسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل نعم المولى ونعم النصير حسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل حسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل حسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل نعم المولى ونعم النصير حسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل نعم المولى ونعم النصير معیوب ہوں تیرا کرم پردہ رکھا عزت بھی دی بڑھ کے دیا اوقات سے دولت بھی طاقت بھی اور وقت بھی کر دے خطا ہر معاف تو فہرست اسیاں کو چھوڑ دے اللہ اللہ تو میری سن لے صدا حسبنا اللہ ونعم الوکیل حسبنا اللہ ونعم الوکیل حسبنا اللہ ونعم الوکیل نعم المولى ونعم النصير حسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل حسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل حسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل نعم المولى ونعم النصير حسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل نعم المولى ونعم النصير رنگینیوں خود غرضیوں میں ہے گزاری یہ عمر ہے آرزو بس کہ یہی کر دوں تیرے نام شام و سحر تسکین دل حاصل کروں رخ اپنی جانب تو موڑ دے اللہ اللہ
नसीर हस्बुनल्लाह व निअमल वकील हस्बुनल्लाह व निअमल वकील हस्बुनल्लाह व निअमल वकील निअमल मौला व निअमल नसीर हस्बुनल्लाह व निअमल वकील निअमल मौला व निअमल नसीर लब पे रहे जिक्र दुआ और तुझसे मैं डरता रहूं करके अमल.
Listen to News in Focus on Radio Al-Ansar, Durban 90.4 and Petermarisburg 105.6 FM every Wednesday from 8 p.m. with Yunus Sacoor. That's 8 p.m. every Wednesday, Radio Al-Ansar, keeping you informed.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome back to News in Focus. It's hotting up now in the studio. We've got our guests keen to chat. I think Hanif Hassan has stimulated a lot of discussion around the whole issue of the tariff adjustments and the impact of these adjustments on the communities out there and leading to local government elections. And he mentioned clearly that the communities voted for these parties that supported this tariff adjustment. So we need to chat about it. But before we continue with our discussion, I want to mention that the show is interactive and we welcome your comments, which can be sent to us on the WhatsApp number 060-9041-056. I think some of the listeners question that can they send messages? Certainly you can send messages and our guests will answer the messages. Hanif, I know you've got time constraints and you want to come in and make your final comments before you leave. I know you stimulated a lot of discussion. You mentioned that in the forthcoming elections, there's preparation taking place. Ratepayer associations are mobilizing. Independents will be coming in. New parties are coming in. But the theme is to look at having a solid government, local government in place to ensure that the needs of the people are addressed. Perhaps you want to address your concluding comments before you leave, Hanif, and then I can give the others a chance to have a go at you when you're not around.
No, they can. I don't think they'll achieve anything, but that's fine. Look, Yunus, you know, I've been around the city for however long time, and I love this place. I've been a councillor for many years ago, been MP for a number of years, Shadow Minister of Home Affairs. You guys were talking about immigration. We must have that conversation again. And also Shadow Minister on Cocktail and Local Government, as well as the Auditor General for 17 years. So if there's anyone knows the state of municipalities in the country, is myself in the studio tonight. I know where the bodies are buried in the city, and I know what's it going to take to turn it around. There are hundreds of thousands of ratepayers in the city who are struggling every single day just to meet their daily needs, struggling to keep the lights on. Elderly folk who can't even afford to keep the lights on any longer. They have to decide between paying the electricity bills and buying food. We have a government that's using our money like you wouldn't believe. Hundreds of millions of rands disappearing every single year. They spend over 300 million rand on security contracts to protect councillors and political and the officials. Yet our families can't even walk on the street any longer. How many police we can put on the street with that money? 22 million rand on a statue on the beachfront could have helped to fix the water. And I can go on and on and on. And so what I want us to do, and this is the reason why I stepped forward to stand as the mayor of the city, is because I want to turn this around. And it's going to require numbers to do so. And I spoke earlier about those one-seat political parties. If we take those 180,000 votes that I talked about earlier, plus that 20,000 votes that people voted for political parties who did not even qualify for a seat, put that 200,000 votes behind the DA, you've got a new government in the city of Durban. Now, you might say that this is political speak, Yunus, but let's look at where people have actually given the DA an opportunity to turn things around. There is a genuine track record. We're the experts in local government, right? I told you about the budget increase in the city of Cape Town, 4 to 6% by comparison to 15% here in Durban. Our good friend Chris Papas, not far from here in Umgeni municipality, took over a bankrupt town, turned it around in 4 years. Today it's the best run municipality in the country. Why? Because we did 4 things. And these are the 4 things that I want people to listen to very carefully tonight. If they give us a chance for me to run the city, I will employ the best people for the job. I will hold them accountable when they don't do their job. We'll put every single cent to work, and we will stop the corruption. If we can get those 4 things right, we'll be able to turn the city around. But Yunus, that's not going to happen if people are going to fragment themselves and get divided, we have one chance in this election to actually get the city right. And that unity of purpose is so important. The people who are listening to this radio station tonight, the future is in their hands. They can decide to play around with these other one-seat political parties and feel sorry for people to give them a job. We've seen this movie play itself out over and over, and it's a scam. Nothing else but a scam. And so I'm asking people to put their faith behind the experts in local government, because our future depends on that. It's not about even the political parties anymore. It's not even about politics. It's about who's got the ability to do the job and who presents the best opportunity to do that. And in Tigweni municipality, you're going to end up with one of two options. Either you're going to get an MK mayor or you're going to get a DA mayor. Those are the two options. You're not going to get a ERPM mayor. You're not going to get an IFP mayor. You're not going to get an EFP mayor. The race is between the DA and the MK in this election. And if you think the ANC was bad, wait until you get the MK. And I don't want to have to come back to the station in 5 years from now and tell you how much worse it's got. And so the opportunity this time around is your last opportunity. If we leave this city in the hands of this government for another 5 years, we must leave the city forever, because that's how bad the situation is. But I've raised my hand to turn it around, and I'm prepared to put my life on the line for it, for the community that I love, for the city that I love. I've served this city for over 30 years. Now is the time for us to turn it around. And I'm asking people to walk with me on this journey so we can fix the city and get it working again. Thank you very much.
Hanif, thanks for that information. Before you leave, just some stats. You know, I'm not only a local government official, I'm also an accountant, I'm a stats man.
And an expert.
Well, you could say that. Let's just see how it goes. Like you, I think the community wants changes and improvement in service delivery. Your current seats in eThekwini is 29% approximately. What you're proposing to the communities is that up it. Whether it's going to come to 50%, depending on the mood of the people out there, but in my opinion, it's highly unlikely. There's going to have to be a coalition. At the moment, in government, there is a coalition. DA, ANC, IFP and small parties. That may well become the reality in eThekwini when we discuss the debate, because there are other parties that are coming out and challenging MK and the ANC. But the ANC is also putting up a fight because they brought democracy, and obviously they're going to put up a strong fight against MK and other parties. So here's an opportunity to start creating a coalition to deal with what you are saying. But having said that, you know, before you leave, I know you wanted to leave in the next 10 minutes, there are some serious politicians seated here today, and one of the politicians is Spipile Malaba, who's been around. He's been around with the ANC, he's been around with EFF, he's been around with MK, he's also a civic activist. And the party that he represents, Africa Mayabuya, like MK, you know, is concerned about the state of the economy, the state of the country. And many of us are also concerned that the ANC brought democracy and we cannot let them just slip away. So there's a room for the ANC in many municipalities, including KZN, and they're putting up a fight. And we have to give them an opportunity. And I'm going to invite certain ANC politicians to discuss. We're not into debates as yet. Probably the debates are going to start soon. And we're going to have a series of debates with different parties, including smaller parties. But Supila, I want to bring you in now. You heard Hanif, and he's putting up a fight on behalf of his party. And we know that whenever the DA talks, the Palestinian issue comes up, and you'll have Abdul wearing his UFP cap, and poor old Hanif is now, you know, have a little bit of a problem because some of his senior members in his party have got a particular position. You know, they pro, not necessarily, you know, Zionists, but they support that regime, and then they pro USA as well, and then you know what Trump is doing. And there are a lot of challenges, but what Hanif is putting forward is that, listen, we've got a challenge, and our challenge is that corruption, maladministration, lack of experience is creating problems, and you've alluded to the fact, and this is why you have hopped around and said, listen, enough is enough, and we need to do something. So what is your position relative? I'm not saying it's a debate to what Hanif is saying. You will concede in a lot of issues he's raising, but in terms of what is going to be, because whenever you deal with elections, from my experience over the years gone by, it's a number crunching game. and you've got to start working on a strategic vision, especially when you've got opposition that's mobilizing as well, and you've got to have a strategy to deal with that. So obviously, you representing a party that's newly formed, but have got comrades that have been around for a considerable period of time. So you know the terrain, just like how Hanif knows the terrain, having been a councillor and an MP for his party for a long period of time. So this is not a debate, but I just want your take in the matter from your experience and why you've now decided that, listen, we've got to take another route. Speeder?
Yes, thanks. And then I would like to appreciate the comment from my brother there, Hanif. You know, I'm sitting here listening to him, and then he says there are things that are happening in our country, and then he's got more experience under the pen of the DA. But they are part here in part and parcel of ESCO in eThekwini. Then, unfortunately, the DA is one of the political parties that indicate left and turn right. They are misleading the people in most of the time. He make an example of the Cape Town. He says the Cape Town is the most run municipality in the country. It's a lie. It's the most run municipality in Camps Bay, Durbanville and Waterkloof and all those posh areas. But you go to Nyanga, you go to Nazla, you go to those places that the colored community and the African community and Indian people lives. It's terrible there. In Johannesburg, in Etswana, Councillor Blinkings, I think the mayor there were about 11.6 billion irregular expenditure that they did not count it for. Second, let me come back to eThekwini. The DA, they are in a GNU and GPU, whatever the case may be, that thing that they call it. They are together, they are in bed with the ANC. So the DA is going out and lying to the voters to say, vote for me, this is what I'm going to do with you. The ANC is corrupt, but they are sitting together in a dinner table with the ANC, the most corrupt people. If the DA says they are going to fight with the corruption in our country or in our municipalities, particularly in eThekwini, what they have done with those million files that are there in a legal unit, how many people that have opened the cases, they are sitting in the ESCO and negotiating the tariffs increase for our people, but they come out and says, no, we're not part of it. The ANC and the other one, they are part of it. So whatever that is calling for now, it's misleading the people, and we should not allow Africa Maibu is here to stop those political parties that are misleading our people. We need the municipality deserve the leadership. The municipality deserve the representatives that are going to deal with all maladministration in our city, and make sure that all the service deliveries that they promised is delivered to the people. If I can ask now, if you go to the budget speech and then whatever they did in a couple of months, which community that was consulted? They did not even go to the community and consult them and says, this 68 billion of the capital budget, what is it that you want us to do with that money? They did not do that. They come and tell us that we are going to increase this, we are going to increase it, we are going to increase that. And the DA were part and parcel of those participation and agree with the ANC because they're in bed together. So we are in a situation, Mr. Sacoor, where we have to nurse true lovers who are, they're here to talk about pillow, to debate, the bedroom talks with us, but they are in a dinner table together or lunch table together. We cannot take them serious.
Okay, Sierra, there's a question for Hanif before he leaves. I'm going to read it out. But in English terms, they call it political expediency, Hanif. Maybe you'll have to unpack it. But before that, sort of a listener wrote in here and he says, to our respected guests, they're calling you a respected guest, Hanif, does he honestly think that the DA is in support of us Muslims, Indians? The DA is literally the revamped national party desperately trying to take back power. Why should we vote for them when they can't recognize a genocide and call it for what it is? I'm not saying ANC is perfect, but the DA is definitely not the alternative for us. I would appreciate if my question is put forward before the guest goes off air.
Yes.
Bismillah.
Shukran. That message is from one of the political opponents. It's not from a real resident. But
well, I was tipping you off about the genocide, and I know that comes every year.
Yunus, I've been around long enough to know the difference between political parties sending messages than residents.
No, they're welcome.
So I will always come back and answer these questions, but the truth of the matter is this. Everybody knows in this city and in this country. And look, let's just be honest. Africa, my booyah, I respect my brother's comments here, but he's also trying to be a councillor.
So the guy says his name is Imtiaz Khan of Overport. He's not a politician.
No, sure. It's fine.
It's not a nom diplôme.
Shukran.
And he says, I'm not a political person in any way whatsoever.
No, it's fine. He said...
He must be a Maya Booyah supporter.
Maybe he is, you see. And what I don't want to do is I don't want to get into these ugly fights between political parties. It doesn't help our situation in the past, and it's not going to help us again. And people can express their opinions. All I want to say to people out there listening to me tonight is the time has come for us to do something significant and serious about the situation that we find ourselves in. I don't want to engage in the fights and arguments with Africa, Mai, Bouye, or anyone else for that matter. That's not going to fix the problems that people are facing. What I want to do is to fix the city. And the only way I can do that is to ask the people who are listening to me tonight, it's up to us. It's up to us, those of us who are putting our lives on the line, those of us who are waking up every single day trying to build a future for our children, those of us who are contributing to the city, those of us who want to build a better future and better country. I want to talk to those people. I don't want to engage with those who disagree with me like my political opponents. That's their point. And I'm saying to South Africans and I'm saying to the people of the city that we can turn the situation around if we don't allow these distractions to get in our way. We focus on what needs to be done. Every single one of us who wants to see change in the city, go out, get registered, and get behind somebody who is genuinely committed to changing the situation around. And that's why I raise my voice. That's why I raise my hand. And that's why I'm saying to people, just walk with me on this journey for 5 years and I'll show you what we'll be able to do. Just walk with me on this journey for 5 years and I'll show you what we can do. There are many others who are going to make many other promises. But at least I come to the table with a track record. At least I come to the table with a track record and a machinery behind me of people who know how to turn things around. Experts in local government who know how to fix towns and cities across South Africa. That's the important thing that needs to happen.
But Hanif, before you leave, then they're saying, is the issue of Gaza a distraction? Obviously...
No, it's not a distraction. The truth of the matter is none of us can be blinded to what's going on there. I've had this conversation with you in the studio so many times. None of us can be blinded to what's going on. Men, women, children, innocent people whose lives are getting destroyed. But Yunus, you and I can speak about this in the studio for the next 20 years. Nothing that you and I can say is going to change what's going on there. I'm not running for the Secretary General of the United Nations. I'm running for the Mayor of the City of Durban. Regardless of what I can tell you about what's going on in other countries in the world, it's not going to change what's happening here in the city. I want to stay focused on the real issues that I can change, the issues that I have the power to change, the issues that I can influence people to help me to bring that change.
One final question, Hanif,
Okay.
is...
That's the fourth final question, but please go ahead.
Yeah, another listener is saying, is Hanif first a Muslim or a politician?
I'll always be a Muslim first.
Okay, that answers our question.
What I can't do is impose my religious beliefs on a political party. The truth of the matter is that the political party that I belong to belongs to all religions.
Okay.
It would be unfair on me to impose any religious beliefs on the political party that I represent.
Thanks.
But I will always be a Muslim first until the day I die.
Thanks
Shukran.
for being quite frank, Hanif, and I want to wish you everything of the best. We will invite you again. We're going to have a series of debates, but I'm going to leave you with this thought. And I always leave individuals with a very important area of thought is that Scialo has said that in the GNU, the DA is voting with ANC, IFP and smaller parties. In the province, the same story. MK with one seat has been pulled out of governance, and they tried to get NFP on their side, they failed. So obviously province is controlled by that coalition. When I asked your councillor, and you don't have to answer the question, he said municipality is not governed by GNU at this stage. What Scialo is saying, there's a subtlety there. We call it political expediency. And I think Asad mentioned that there were discussions and maybe the DA took a decision to openly oppose, but behind the scenes
let
they
me
accepted.
Explain. It's
but
a
you've got a minute
question.
to conclude that, because I want to bring in Ganesh into the discussion.
It's a valid question, and let me explain it quite honestly and fairly. Tigweni municipality and KZN municipalities are the only province in the country that has an executive committee system. The city is run by an executive committee, proportional representation. Unlike the rest of the country where we've got executive mayors. Yeah. So every single decision the city takes must go through the executive committee. The DA has 3 seats there. So we have to participate in the discussions because we are sitting there. We have those seats. Is my colleagues expecting us to be silent? No. But every decision that goes to a vote that's not in the best interest of the residents, we vote against it. And we do whatever we can.
So what
to
you're
block
saying, in EXCO, the DA opposes the tariff adjustment?
Of course, absolutely. Yeah. And
what they're saying is there's a deal that could be cut from your principles in province and national.
So I want to just say this, because this GNU, GPU thing has come up. And Yunus, I want to be absolutely honest and sincere with you. And I think South Africans will follow the point that I'm making. Whenever we act at a national or a provincial level, we act in the best interest of the country. We don't make decisions for our own personal interests. There's a reason why we got into the GNU is to save South Africa from total destruction. There's a reason why we got into the GPU is to keep the MK out. And let me tell you, since the DA has contributed towards the GPU, there's stability at the provincial government. And we're in charge of the public purse, and that's why corruption has been on the absolute decline in the province. So wherever you give the DA an opportunity for us to be able to make a decision in terms of who we get into a coalition with, our number one consideration is always what's in the best interest of the country and what's in the best interest of the people.
So I'm going to leave you with this before you leave. Don't answer now.
I have to answer now.
No. The impeachment proceedings is taking place at national, and there's political expediency. So your party obviously will have to be part of the debate after that committee decides.
That's correct.
Depending what they come up with. The reason that your party gave, but we don't have to answer it. It's a debate in itself, and we're going to discuss that impeachment in another program. But going forward, the response that's coming through from some of the players in GNU, that under the circumstances, Ramaphosa is the most expedient president, being the president of the ANC, to be in control of this country. So don't answer the question, but think about it when we next meet, that obviously the interest of the country comes first. And he happened to be from another party, so be it. We can't oppose because of him being the president of the ANC, but in terms of his ability, his stature, his qualifications, the Palapala issue is some issue of concern. Let that process take its course. But to run this country and create stability, the DA doesn't necessarily support an ANC president, but he is the most expedient individual. So think about it, and maybe
I have
we'll
to say
discuss
this and leave you to simply say, whenever there is a decision that the DA is faced with, I want to give you the assurance, we always put the interests of the country first. And let me just say this also in closing comments, Yunus. And I say this with absolute sincerity and honesty. If it were not for the Democratic Alliance, this country would have been destroyed a long time ago.
Well, I guess we'll have a different view. But Naren, you want to come in quickly before Hanif leaves, or you'll allow him to leave?
Yeah, no, respectfully, Hussein makes
Hanif just to hear you, but we don't ask him to comment or respond.
Hussein makes the Democratic Party looks like the golden child, you know. It's far, far from it, I can tell you. And just
but it's not a debate now.
No, I do understand, but I just need to make the point, because in these discussions even, I think he needs to exhibit a bit of maturity in terms of not making it toxic. You know, he says he was a councillor and an MP. As an MP, he swore allegiance to the Constitution. What does our Constitution say about political activity? We have the freedom to associate, to indulge in political activity. If I want to stand for elections, I have that right. Who is he to say that the small parties have got no right to, just because
I didn't say that.
It didn't go. Don't interrupt me, sir. Please.
I didn't say.
Please don't interrupt me. I didn't interrupt you.
Harif, let him finish.
Yeah.
I'm not going to ask you to respond because then we'll be taking the whole debate. We got half an hour left for the others to comment.
Sure. So
have your point, and then when Hanif is gone, you can have an extra go at
I want to make it clear.
But what you're saying that the small parties have got a role to play and they can add value to the local government functioning.
Yeah,
continue.
I don't think the DA must not denigrate parties that have a role to play in the country. It might not be the way they want the machinery to work, but do not do that. But here's something he was disingenuous with. When he said they didn't want to vote for the budget, did he explain to the community and the people that if you don't vote for the budget, what's going to happen? Because, let me make it very clear, right? When a municipality fails to pass a budget, there's a problem. The consequences are serious. Of course, ask any ratepayer if he wants to pay a added tariff to, everybody will say no. NERSA, Amgeni Water, they impose tariffs on the municipality, who then have to obtain it from the ratepayer. Now, when a municipality fails to pass an annual budget, it triggers a mandatory provincial or national government intervention. The National Treasury may withhold funds like the equitable share. The provincial executive typically dissolves the council and appoints an interim administrator. If eThekwini had to go into administration, noting the problems that we have in service delivery, we'll be in a worse situation. So instead of looking at denigrating those parties that voted for the budget, let's look at how we can alleviate the increases and mitigate those increases going ahead. At some point in the future, there will be increases. And, that is why I say when a party like the DA demonizes little parties, when those little parties have a right constitutionally to participate in the political process, then I have a problem with the word democratic. It's a contradiction in terms. You call the Democratic Alliance, but you're not allowing democracy to prevail.
I'm going to stop the discussion on this matter because we've been told to take a break now. Hanif, I'm going to leave you. Thanks for joining us and much appreciated for your comments. The point that Hanif made, and I'm not going to allow him to talk any further, is that, listen, he voted against the budget. He voted against, or his party, against these increases. He explained why the GNU is not influencing this setup, but others believe so. But we'll leave that for another discussion on another day. Thanks very much for your input, Hanif.
Shukran, it's always a pleasure to be here. Yunus, it's always great to have a conversation with you, and I really do appreciate it.
No, it's a pleasure to have you here, and must remember, my role is to be objective and to be fair. And any party that adds value to the program, we must acknowledge it. But thanks very much for joining us, Hanif, and making yourself available in your busy schedule. All the best, and we will invite you in the future. Thanks for bringing your colleagues as well. On that note, we'll take a break. Inshallah, after the break, we'll continue with our discussion.
Welcome to Simplex Radio. Visit our showroom for the full range of car audio. Our TV department carries top brands with quality LED panels, full HD to Ultra HD, and now the experience of Super Ultra HD. Visit our theater rooms and transform your home with brands like Onkyo, Integra, Denon, Boston Acoustics, Yamaha, and more for quality audio visual experience. Now available, full range of home appliances. A one-stop shopping experience. Call 031 306 4029 or Kenilworth Park, 202 Brickville Road, Overport. Simplex Radio, the name you can trust.
Right now, over 150 million children around the world are orphaned, facing hunger, hardship, and uncertainty. With Islamic Relief's Orphan Sponsorship Program, you can provide a child with access to education, nutritious food, essential healthcare, and a safe home. Your sponsorship is not just support, it's hope, security, and a brighter future. Be the reason an orphan child smiles again. Sponsor an orphan today with Islamic Relief.
For over 5 decades, Sunfoil has nurtured a legacy rooted from our land. From a sunflower seed grown with goodness and love, crafted through excellence, precision, and care. Proudly South African, and the only 100% pure sunflower oil endorsed as a diamond partner by the Heart and Stroke Foundation. Cook with confidence, serving the best to the people you love, from one dish to the next. Sunfoil, the heart of good cooking.
Listen to News in Focus on Radio Al-Ansar, Durban 90.4 and Pietermaritzburg 105.6 FM every Wednesday from 8 p.m. with Yunus Sacoor. That's 8 p.m. every Wednesday, Radio Al-Ansar, keeping you informed.
Ya Rasool Allah, Ya Habib Allah, Aka, 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 phir ke gali gali سب کی کھائے کیوں دل کو جو عقل دے خدا تیری گلی سے جائے کیوں رخصت کا فنا کشان غش سے ہمیں اٹھائے کیوں غش سے ہمیں اٹھائے کیوں سوتے ہیں ان کے سائے میں سوتے ہیں ان کے سائے میں کوئی ہمیں جگائے کیوں قسم غفلت عیش ہے ستم یاد حضور کی قسم غفلت عیش ہے ستم خوب ہے قید غم میں ہم خوب ہے قید غم میں ہم کوئی ہمیں چھڑائے کیوں پھر کے گلی گلی تباہ ہو کر سب دکھائے था वो जो न हो तो कुछ न हो वो जो न थे तो कुछ न था वो जो न हो तो कुछ न हो जान है वो जहान की जान है वो जहान की जान है तो जहान है आका 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 की खाका क्यों दिल को जो अक्ल दे खुदा तेरी गली से जाए क्यों हाँ जान गए इश्क मुस्तफा रोज फजू करे खुदा जान है इश्क मुस्तफा रोज फजू करे खुदा जिसको दर्द का मजा जिसको दर्द का मजा नाज़े दवा उठाए क्यों फिर के गली गली तबा आका सब की खाए क्यों दिल को जो अक्ल दे खुदा तेरी गली से जाए क्यों है तो रज़ा निरा सितम जुर्म पे गए लजाए हम है तो रज़ा निरा सितम जुर्म पे गए लजाए हम कोई बजाए सोज़े गम कोई बजाए सोज़े गम साज़े तरब बजाए क्यों फिर के गली गली तबा यो करे सब खाए क्यों दिल को जो अक्ल दे खुदा तेरी गली से जाए क्यों
Listen to News in Focus on Radio Al Ansar, Durban 90.4 and Petermarisburg 105.6 FM every Wednesday from 8 p.m. with Yunus Sacoor. That's 8 p.m. every Wednesday, Radio Al Ansar, keeping you informed.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome back to News in Focus live on Radio Al Ansar International, broadcasting on the frequency Durban 90.4 FM, Petermarisburg 105.6 FM, and audio streaming on www.alansar.org.za. Before the ad break, we had strong comments coming through from our guests this evening, and a lot of comments have come through on WhatsApp messages questioning the DA representative Hanif Hussain on some of the comments he made. And Hanif was adamant that in terms of the tariff adjustments, the DA voted against all tariff adjustments, against the budget. There were question marks around EXCO and what was the DA's position. We need clarity on that if there is no consensus in EXCO, will that particular tariff increase and budget approval go to council? My understanding, yes, it would go if you got the majority, but some of the guests believe that there must be consensus, so we'll resolve that issue on another program we have going forward, because we need probably the provisions of the Municipal Systems Act to be determined as to whether if there's no consensus in EXCO, can a particular budget debate go to council for approval? My understanding is yes, but we'll clarify that going forward. Now, I want to bring in, Abdul Valodia. He's the chairman of ORA and the president of United for Palestine, and he wears several caps. And his organization voted against any tariff adjustments, and they've been fighting for improved service delivery in Ward 31 and indeed in other wards. So, Abdul, you've been hearing the discussions going on from our reps present here. I think Asad made some very valuable comments, and I'm going to give him a chance to come in after you again in the discussion and challenge some of the comments. That it's not a debate, but, those that are present can make their comments, because we got another 20 minutes we're going to have a discussion on. So, Abdul, firstly, on the tariffs, and secondly, towards local government, because ratepayers are going to play a crucial role going forward in local government. So, firstly, your organization's input in terms of tariff adjustments and why you believe the municipality has failed to not to have no tariff increases.
Thank you, Yunus. The tariff increases, when we look at it, and, we've been fighting this municipality, from the time the ORA has been formed. And we say our people in our communities are suffering, with service delivery. On a weekly basis, we have water outages, sewer flowing, lights out, potholes and so forth, infrastructure failures, crime rate, policing. All this is to do with tariff. Everything is to do with taxes and tariff increases that we're paying. We are saying, as a ratepayer association, we have to look at the interests of our community, and we have to look at the interests of the people that are here, which is majority poor. People are suffering to put, meals on the table due to this high petrol prices, because of the war that's taking place in Iran. And that's all due to the genocide that's taking place also in Palestine. All these issues has played a major role to where we are now. As civil society, we cannot afford anything as far as, government, if they had compassion for people, they should have looked at, to say that we have high fuel costs, salaries are not going up. How can we impose these tariffs? They should have adjusted this thing virtually down to zero. We understand that they have to pass a budget, right? We understand that. But as government, they should know better of what challenges people are facing in South Africa. So, at the time when the ERPM, called this march, and we supported them. We supported them on the basis that it is an interest for our community. It's an interest for people, like us as a Ratepayers Association to be involved in this protest. And we stood very firm. And we believe, like for example, I think it's today, we received a statement from the ANC boasting that the Ratepayers Association has accepted this tariff increase. As far as the ORA is concerned, we did not accept it. Right? In fact, we signed the petition, Asad. We signed the petition and we submitted the petition to the mayor that we don't accept this tariff increases. So I don't understand when the mayor uses these systems that he wants to, have his own political agenda to say that Ratepayers Association has endorsed, these things. That doesn't happen. Coming to local government elections, we speak about, I think it's very important for people all over that's listening to this. And, they need to take a stance in their communities because they know, currently we had Hanif Hussain that comes from the DA. And we look at all our wards in as far as minorities we speak about, because I got our comrade here next to me. And you don't like the word minority, by the way. Right? All the wards are DA-run wards, that we say. And every ward of us has failed. Service delivery basically doesn't work. Things don't work. And they say, and what the funny thing is that Hanif mentioned that the DA says that we serve the people, we have the best interests, we have the best governance, we have, but If we look at Chatsworth, Phoenix, Overport, DA run, and go look at the lifestyle, how people live there. Things are worse. There's no improvement. So all I'm saying is that when it comes now to local government election, people from within their own wards, civic organizations, ratepayers association, they need to find leaders who they can look at, like what we do in here in Overport. And Yunus, as you involved in our groups. As a ORA, we've been working for years, and we've been working tirelessly, helping the community on a daily basis, whether it's water, sanitation, whatever the issues is. And we say we cannot have councillors coming out of this area, like our current councillor we have now. You can't have a councillor from out of Overport. Councillors need to be elected from within the people that are delivering services to the public, to the communities. And these type of members should become councillors to stand, because they understand the pain and they understand how, what's happening here in the area. So I think that's very, very important to look at. And, elections are around the corner, November. People need to really stand up and make a decision, because it cannot be business as usual, where Indian communities are sitting in Indian areas, decide to sit back and think that they're going to win these councils by, not voting. So we say people need to go out, first of all, go and register yourself if you haven't voted. Register by your numbers, because there is a date that, where it closes. First of all, once you're registered, and then find an organization that you want to back, and then stick with that.
Thanks, Abdul. I don't want to confuse you with some of my comments about what you said, but then you'll say another politician is talking here. But I want to bring in Asad Ghaffar, because I think what Skelo going to tell us now is very important for our listeners to hear. But before that, Asad, we exhausted the discussion on the tariff increases, and you were concerned that the DA is boasting they objected, but behind the scenes there was another ball game. But leading up to local government elections, you as the Ratepayer Association civic activist chose to join a party, the eThekwini Ratepayers movement. You all mobilized and you all are formed as a political party to contest elections. Obviously, during your reign of office, which was a number of years, you've picked up lots of challenges, particularly at a local government level. And there was a feeling between yourself and all the members of that movement is that there's a need to bring in new blood into the political scenario. And there was a feeling amongst your members is that there's a need, not necessarily, to control council, but to, give input to make changes in council, and whatever seats your party gets during the forthcoming elections, it'll add value to bringing about change. Perhaps you just give us comment in that regard. Asad, you may just want to wrap up the issue about the budget approval and the tariff adjustments, but also to indicate that why you believe there's a need for a change in political leadership. Bismillah, Asad.
Thanks, Yunus. Also, thank you for that long break that you gave me. It gave me an opportunity to go and tend to my tongue that I was biting, and it started to bleed while you had Hanif, making his comments. So
I deliberately do that so it gives you enough energy to have a go. Hanif is not here, but I'm sure he's listening on the radio. So Bismillah, I asked a couple of questions, answered those, and then you can respond to what Hanif has said.
No, sure. But at least my tongue is fixed so I can respond. But so to answer your question, why did we choose to enter into the political arena? It was for this very same reason, listening to these politicians year in, year out, come here, lie to the people, make false promises, claim to be able to put the moon in your left hand and the sun in your right hand. And all they are is just, speaking lies. I mean, we sat here, and that's why I told you I had to bite my tongue, listening to, this DA propaganda, and they're well trained. I have to say, when he talks about experience, he's talking about, delivering lies. So they school them in this. The reality is, we as ERPM, why did we step in? Mr. Valoja raised an issue in terms of his challenges that he faces here in Overport. That challenge is similar for every other ward in eThekwini controlled by the DA. The councillors are not present. They are non-responsive. When you question them about anything, then you're anti-DA. They will not engage you. If you have to go to them and question them, on service delivery, the first thing is that you're anti-DA. They don't see the issue and deal with the issue. If they have you in a WhatsApp group, they'll remove you from the WhatsApp group. You can't engage them. Now, this is the behavior of these DA councillors. So how then do we move forward? If you can't engage the councillor, who is supposed to be the representative of the community, whether that community voted for him or not, then who does the community go to? Who? Now, this is the position that the DA has taken. He mentioned earlier, and Mr. Ganesh raised this or challenged him on this. He's talking about 180,000 votes that went to smaller parties. The problem with the DA is that they recognize every other smaller party as an opposition. So for the last 30 years, why did you not embrace these parties? Had you embraced them and brought them in, you would have been in government, even you're in eThekwini. But you're so arrogant that you'd rather not engage those small parties. He mentioned ACC and he mentioned ERPM. But he mentioned ACC, and I'm not defending ACC, they must defend themselves. But they did the same thing with the ACC. If you speak to him just, he was so upset he considered the DA himself as an opposition to the opposition. That's what he used to say, I'm an opposition to the opposition. So how is it that the DA, who claims to be an opposition, but doesn't want to unite with smaller parties? That doesn't make sense. Now, let's go back. Let's look at the figures. He's talking about 180,000. They lost by 180,000. What he's not telling you is that 1.1 million voters didn't vote. So why they didn't vote? They could have voted for the DA. What did you, as a DA, do to entice the 1.1 million voters? You did nothing. People don't believe in the DA. People don't trust the DA. And they will not trust the DA. So, to come here and sit here, and I hope he becomes the mayor, but it's very unlikely that he would. And the only time he would become the mayor is if he enters into an agreement with the ANC. Now, Spear mentioned this, that at the end of the day, in order for the DA to govern, they have to partner with the ANC. And the only time Hanif will be the mayor is if the DA gets more seats than the ANC. Other than that, he can walk the whole of Durban.
Well, that is a reality. That may well be the case. I'm going to bring in Swipile Malaba. Swipile, you've been involved with different political parties over the last few decades, and you've been through the mill, like many of us. And you know what's cutting in government and in the municipalities. And nobody can come and pull a wool over your eye and tell you, listen, we failed, or we didn't fail, or the DA is pro-USA, pro-Israel, not responding to the genocide issue, because it's predominantly a white party, and it's clear-cut. Abdul mentioned clearly that they got councillors that can't deliver, but I differ with Abdul, because these councillors' hands are tied, they're not part of the majority in council, and the tendency would be that council would look after those areas where their councillors are in those wards. And you very well know, when the ANC was controlled back in the day, they will make sure that their wards, their ward councillors' needs are taken care of, the budgets are done accordingly. And even during the Zuma era, when you were in government, you obviously knew how Zuma's thinking was. And when Zuma was caught out for whatever the problems were, he then became the villain. So Ramaphosa then stepped in when he wasn't given deputy president, and he went into business during the Mandela reign, and he was disillusioned, and eventually with Thabo Mbeki keeping him out, when he was removed, that's when Ramaphosa found the gap and he came in. So the situation is simple. Service delivery, all the parties have conceded beside the ANC that there's a decline, but the president has also conceded. And he's dealing with the issue very aggressively, and he's embarrassed. He went for the GNU because he felt there's a need of creating stability in the country. MK came in and, being members of the ANC, attacked the ANC because maybe they were disillusioned members, and you were with these parties all along. And now you decided enough is enough with all these guys because they did wrong there, they came here, they did further wrong, they went somewhere else, they did further wrong. And we know how the new parties evolved post-1994. First you had COPE, then you had EFF, recently you had MK, Rise Mzansi in between, and various other parties. And it is clearly evident in the demographics of this country that the majority of voters are African, our African brothers. And many of them are living in informal settlements. Many of them are living in hostels throughout the country, in abject poverty. And those individuals are fed up of the state of service delivery in this country and the lack of service delivery for them being the majority, including those in the townships. They're living in abject poverty. There's a small percentage of our African brothers that are living a moderate life because they moved into these affluent areas. But the large majority, when people go around, and in that background, you and a lot of comrades that were with the ANC, with EFF, with MK have decided enough is enough because we don't want a situation where one is worse than the other. So from your perspective, firstly, I just want to give you an opportunity to just explain, your involvement in politics, because obviously being an activist, and we all worked on the basis that the ANC struggled, they were part of the struggle, they brought democracy in this country, and we cannot allow them this to disintegrate because Madiba left, and he clearly said in one of his speeches that if the ANC don't deliver, then they must be removed, like how the ANC fought against those that didn't deliver then. And if the ANC starts getting oppressive, then you must deal with them. And now some of you guys have taken the decision to move and see where we can get a home. So finally you own a home and you don't know whether you're going to be there, but you're saying let's challenge, and meet the communities and explain to them that, listen, there's a need for change, not only at a political level, but also at the official level in the various local government departments, because that election is looming. So I've given you a mouthful of comments and questions. I just want you to put it in this perspective that, listen, I was a civic activist. I got into a particular political party, and then I found there were problems after a period of time, and I moved on, and now I'm settled, like how Assad is saying, we got another party to deal with issues. The DA is saying we are there and we'll continue to challenge. And then you got the smaller parties, but everyone wants to play a role, including what Naresh Ganesh said. The smaller parties got a role to play. So perhaps for the benefit of our listeners, you can put the situation in its correct perspective, being in that space for so long, so that our listeners understand the real setup on the basis that I'm telling you that the majority of voters are African in South Africa.
Thanks, Yunus, once again. I think one day you should give me 1 hour just to explain.
I know you got 10 minutes, but you're going to just chat on the main areas. But my mind is thinking all over the place now. And I'm just giving you an opportunity to educate our listeners, to tell them that, listen, the reality on the ground is different from what politicians sometimes profess to say here.
Correct.
So go for it.
I think firstly, let me indulge the listeners that Africa Maibuye, it's a political party that was founded by the people themselves. What we did after looking around all the political parties that we've been and the one that existing, they've got no solution for our people. So we did a consultation processes. We consulted different church leaders. We consulted chiefs and traditional, the church leaders as well. So we consulted the
So just to take you back, because the one I wanted you to comment on is that many of you guys were in that space originally.
Correct.
Maybe you can just give a little bit of a background that we chose that space because we thought, and we know there was certain, deliverables that took place up to a certain point, and when we realized corruption, maladministration will become the way. If you come in there, don't forget that, right?
Then when we sat down, then we looked around, then we realized that all these political parties, they have no solutions for our people. There is crime, unemployment, student that goes to university, get degrees, but they don't get jobs. Then there is aging infrastructure. There is they even modernize the the load shedding. They are saying the load reduction, but in fact it's a load shedding. So there's quite a lot of things that is happening, and all these political parties, the leaders, they think for themselves and their families and friends. And then the other one, they become even a cult where there's only one man show. If that man says, let's go to left, then everybody must go to left. You look at the other one, the green one, that they recently established. That one is a family stokvel where only the families and friends that they must benefit. And I can tell you, that one is a graduate of the other one. So they are the learners, then they've graduated in corruption. So there's no one in that political space that want to deal with the corruption. There's no one that want to offer the solution to the people. So the African My Way movement was born in that space where we said enough is enough. We need to rescue our people. We need to deliver the promises that were promised them in 1994 when they went to the first poll. Then Africa My Way, we say, let us restore the dignity of the African people, in South Africa particular. Let's start here. What will happen then is that we will do so many things. So it's so embarrassing that the person will come and say, I've got 30 years in council, I've got 30 years in municipality. What is it that we have done for our people? Show me one thing that we have done. They can't show anything. What is happening today? They have passed a budget together with the ANC because they're protecting the GNU. That's the main point. Now, we'll look at, when you go around to all wards, there's a water leakage. There's something that is broken. And they can't fix those things. So what Africa My Way will do now in this local government election, especially Tegui particularly, we will make sure that each and every leak, each and every drop of water in township or in the suburb areas must be fixed immediately. By doing so, we must get rid of these contractors, the water contractors. They are not helping anything. It's a scheme. It's a corruption that is happening there. So we'll employ the local people with 2 or 1 van of the municipality. In one, if you've got 4 people, one they work at night, one they work during the day. So if there's a water leakage during a day, so that they'll go that and fix that water, which means they'll save that billions of liters that the municipality is complaining about, which I don't know why they even talk about water wastage that makes them increase the water tariffs. And then in electricity as well, we do the same thing, that we must have people who are employed locally with a municipality van. Let them go and fix the street light. Let them go and attend all the faults. So those are the things that we are going to do. And we are blessed in eThekwini. We've got more than four rivers. We've got Mkomazi, Umvoti, Mitmadam, and all those things.
But all are more than 90% full.
You know what? But today they're telling us that municipality, they have a problem of the water shortage. That is why they increase the water. Why they're putting a burden into the people? Why? It's because, Yunus, they want to cover their corruption. Because they know they're increasing the pace of the corruption to say, if we can put 20 million extra, which means our friends or the political party or whoever will benefit 20 million. So it's not about the service delivery. The municipality and a local, and a public institution cannot be turned into private institution. The municipalities are here to serve the people. They're not here to make profit. It seems like they're running business there in eThekwini municipality. So people of eThekwini and a resident, they must be rescued from these corrupt people, individuals.
So what you're saying is that, coming from that background of these political parties and knowing what they've been doing, you want to really go in, have a party that will break that cabal and start bringing reality to the management and administration of the municipality.
We must stop a status quo of corruption. We must employ capable leaders like yourself. You've been to municipality, you know what is happening, you are the most competent public servant that has delivered the thing that they can't even do it now.
The problem I have is that, I've got one leg in the grave and the other leg in the banana peel. Although I'm hanging in there and we're using our knowledge, but it is a general agreement that something drastic needs to take place in local government. And at the end of the day, you need people who got the guts to go in and challenge the existing politicians. Now, we're running out of time, and the final question I want to put to you, because you've been in that space and you're an experienced politician, And like myself, being an experienced administrator, but also part a civic activist and a politician, is that I know the reality on the ground. And it's a number crunching game. And Asad must hear this carefully because he wants to get into that space. And once you're a minority, you just become a number there because the big boys start running the budget. And as you said, they're already strategizing how they're going to use the budget, how they're going to give the jobs for pals, how they're going to give the contracts. And they are the big guys that have been exposed, and Ramaphosa is trying to apprehend them through the various commissions. Madlanga, as we speak, there are decisions being taken, there are investigations being undertaken, and there's outcomes taking place where SAPS is deemed to be a problem. Metropolis is deemed to be a problem. Then the various other departments. Now, obviously, you are sitting in this studio as a concerned politician and a member of a political party. That, listen, our present government is not doing what we expect them to do, and the majority of voters want a vote change. And the smaller parties want to have a space to make a difference. And it becomes number crunching. So what's the game plan? Because at this point in time, we're just talking general leading up to local government elections and the debate of how others fail and how other parties are going to improve. Reality has to reign on the ground because listeners are listening. And I had 3 listeners that came to me on Saturday when I went for a wellness program. And those listeners are listening, diligently to these programs. And these are widows. A 91-year-old widow was listening to the program, and she says, "You guys are sort of bringing to our attention realities that things are becoming unaffordable. We don't know where we're going to get the money to pay for these services, but the money is being squandered elsewhere, and we want you guys to expose this thing." So what you're alluding to, Sibilo, is that we have a problem. We have to deal with it. We came from that background. If we're not going to deal, like Hanif said, with corruption, it's a common cause for concern. So what's the strategy? You got few minutes going forward to make a difference in those municipalities, because you're not only talking eThekwini, you're talking all municipalities that lots of parties will be contesting, even independents. So what's the strategy? Knowing well that it may be a challenge to get the majority in the bigger municipalities, but at least to make a difference through a coalition. So you got 5 minutes just to summarize that what is your party's position in terms of a strategic vision going forward for initial discussion is eThekwini, but with other municipalities.
Okay, thanks. Firstly, Africa Maibuye is the biggest political party in South Africa currently now, because we exist in all 257 municipalities. We exist in all 9 provinces.
But isn't the other parties also existing?
No, they don't. I can tell you, we can go into technicalities about it. Yes, correctly. Some they were going to some of the conferences in January where they only out of 909 branches, only 157 branches showed up.
So you've done your homework.
Exactly.
That, listen, we are targeting all the municipalities because we believe we got support.
Yes.
So that's your strategy.
Yes, we are going to contest all the local all wards, in fact. Then that is why Africa Maibuye, the strategy is that firstly, we need to consult with the people. You cannot choose one of the comrades, say, okay, this is my comrade, so become a councillor or become a peer councillor. We do extensive consultation with the people. The people, they must raise their people who resonate, who are grounded, who are centered within the communities. People who knows the problems that are confronting the people within the ward. So we're asking those people to raise their hands so that they can serve the community with heart, so that they can serve the community with faith. Not the people that will go there just for them to go to municipality and cash and get money. That's what we get if you select or you elect people in terms of the comradely. They end up going there to municipality and then do nothing. Instant, they will perpetuate the corruption. Secondly, Africa Maibuye, the manifesto be localized. eThekwini will have our own local manifesto. We're not going to have a generic manifesto that will come from a discussion of the leadership and say, this is what eThekwini municipality, the resident need. We are going to the people and consult them, which is a Mamela phase. We've done that phase now. We have got what the people want. We have got the cries of the people. So we're going to generate the manifesto, the local manifesto for eThekwini. That is not similar to Mgungundlovu, King Cetshwayo or Tugela. They will have their own manifestos. So that when we get into that municipality, and Yunus, when you interact with the people, they give you the solutions as well. What is it that must be done in order to resolve these issues? So, thirdly, to employ people who are incompetent, it's the most thing that derail the development and the service delivery to our people. We must not be the political party who will go to municipality and advance the status quo. We must get rid of these corrupt people, and they must go to jail. Not that to get rid of them just to, give them a party to go to Mauritius and Dubai. They must go to jail, and because what they're committing is a crime against humanity. Our people in eThekwini, they deserve better. Our people in eThekwini, it's a time for them to stand up and raise their hands and say, Africa Maibuye, we want you to occupy that office so that you can deliver what was not delivered to us, the promises of 1994. It's a time for them in the 4th of November. They must go on a poll and say, Africa Maibuye, Aibuye Africa. We're restoring the dignity of the African people. I thank you.
I think, Sipile has covered a lot of important issues relating to the state of service delivery and the deliverables of the political parties in control of government and the municipalities. The situation is that there's a huge debate looming, in front of us in terms of local government elections. And the challenge is, how do we attract the voters to ensure that they got the correct politicians in power in the various municipalities? And now it's becoming clearly evident that the smaller parties want to play a role. And the response of the bigger parties to what Sipelo is saying here is that obviously if you call, say, the DA and you ask them to respond to the smaller parties, and like Narayan Ganesh was saying, they will say like these are chewing gum parties and they're going to have 1 or 2 seats in government and we are the majority, we will still control. But when MK came into the scene and obviously proved to the country that we're a force here, and they got the numbers. Now in local government, some of the parties, new parties that are coming in the block are saying, listen, you guys are taking us lightly, but the numbers may prove otherwise. And this is what, Sipila is saying here, that listen, the people will decide who they want and they want change. Now just to go through a question, good way to sideline the question, say that question came from an opposition and then ignore all of the points made and they expect us to give them our vote. I literally called them out of being the National Party revamped and he didn't even refute it. So obviously there's a comment about Hanif Hassan and the DA, but Hanif Hassan is here to propagate his party's viewpoint and we're going to hear no different from him unless he's challenged sometime in a future debate by others. And he will have that opportunity. But I, as the chair of this particular program, have to be objective and give everybody an opportunity to express themselves. But ultimately, the numbers on the ground will determine. And MK, just I'm using that as an example, surprised everybody. But obviously, there was, Zuma behind MK, and he had a lot of black support. Now, other smaller parties like Rise Mzansi and the few other parties, they had a lot of good black leaders, but they ended off with 2-3%. Now, obviously, new parties are going to come in, and the proof of the pudding is how they perform at municipal elections, how they mobilize to perform, and it is clear that you need the black majority support to make the numbers in eThekwini and other bigger municipalities. So crucial will be the methodology of mobilizing for elections. So I want to conclude. I've got 2 minutes left to 10:30, and obviously we need to close because we're half an hour over time. I said your final comments. You got 2 minutes.
So for us as ERPM, like I said, we've entered this space because we've seen all these mainstream political parties grandstanding and not delivering on any of the issues that they promise, or they, when you see them in an election year. and nothing is going to change. This year, as you can see, they're out in their numbers, talking a big game. The DA keeps saying that, Hanif was saying here, where they govern well. And we as ERPM, we're not even in council, but we've made so much of changes within council. And one of the things is the indigent policy as an example. It existed in this municipality for a very long time. And we as ERPM, we were the first to encourage the municipality to take this program out to communities. So we had the officials come. We were booking community halls and spaces for the municipality to come out and meet these indigent people, sign them up and put them onto the indigent register. Where was the DA? I mean, that's a policy. You can't get outvoted on that. So the issue of being outvoted is stale now. That's one issue. We then got the municipality to do help people with their billing issues. I mean, we rolled this out, and after we rolled it out, then only the DA started to do this. Then there was most recently in the south of Durban, the Southern Aqueduct needed some repairs. There was a major water outage in those areas. Where was the DA? And those are DA wards, and the reason why I'm picking on it is because they are DA wards. And one of the things that the DA did deliberately is blocked civic organizations and ratepayer associations from requesting for municipal tankers. And that's not the policy of the of the municipality. I mean, it's not that only a councillor has the authority to request for tankers. So if you really cared about your community, and that was more important than politics, you would have made an effort to get water to your community, but you failed. We as ERPM, we had to beg. We were begging private institutions, private tankers, to bring water to those communities. Where was the DA? So don't come and tell us that where you govern well, and the only reason you're not doing well is because you're outvoted. In the spaces where you can operate, where you don't need a vote, why haven't you been doing that? And that for us is a concern.
Some pertinent comments there, Asad. I want to conclude, basically, we're going to have more discussions of this nature, but ultimately what our listeners want to hear is how we're going to improve service delivery, how we're going to improve the quality of life, how we're going to deal with poverty. That's a major problem, because the majority of our citizens are living in abject poverty, whether it's black, African, Indian, white, colored, all are battling. Jobs are difficult to get. Individuals in local government are not performing. They need to get rid of, and I think Spipeda mentioned that, listen, once you become or you get in control, you got to deal with these issues. Either sideline them or deal with them, because the unions will intervene. But ultimately, the budget coming from the rate space, coming from the consumers, has to be spent for the benefit of our people to deal with abject poverty, whether it's to deal with the informal settlements, to deal with the townships, to deal with all the other former townships, and to assist our indigent communities in ensuring that they are taken care of in these difficult times. So, brothers and sisters, ladies and gentlemen, that brings us to the end of News in Focus for this evening. It was a very robust and interesting debate. Good contributions from our guests this evening. Naren Ganesh, political analyst, party head of NIXA, he gave some very important input on the hate speech and xenophobic attacks. Asad Ghaffar, chairman of Etiquette Ratepayers Movement, he mentioned clearly that you got to walk the talk, go there, raise things with municipalities, start making changes, and that's what his movement is all about. They were on the ground, they were ratepay organizations. They firmly believe that if you don't confront council, you don't really, initiate changes, then nothing's going to happen. Hanif Hussain, DA mayoral candidate for Durban, indicated clearly that as far as the DA is concerned, they got better run municipalities in other provinces, and including KZN, and they believe that if they are in control of the municipality, they can make the differences. Ultimately, there may be a coalition of sorts because they are the bigger parties. Abdul Faloja, chairman of ORA, president of Unite for Palestine, as a civic activist, said that he's on the ground, he knows what's happening with his ORA members, some 1,000 of them, And whenever there are challenges on the ground, they're on the ball, they contact the municipalities. The councillor is not acting, happen to be a DA councillor in the ward, but they are acting and getting things done. And then Sipile Malaba from Africa Maya Mover, he's been through the mill, he's been with the ANC, he's been with the EFF, he's been with MK, close ally of Zuma. He realizes, listen, these guys are all up to bull, there's a problem there. Let's now mobilize, form a party and make the changes. He firmly believes, as the third deputy president of this Africa Maya Buddha, that we're going to surprise people out there. We're going to perform better than the MK. Time will tell us whether that's the truth. In essence, in summary, the black majority will decide on the framework of the political, profile for municipalities throughout South Africa. The minority of what you call members of population will support the necessary parties that will add value to their deliverables required, and that's why people got to start registering to vote. And the call is that if you don't register to vote, there's no sense complaining later. But also when you register to vote, choose a party that you think will represent you in council, will make the changes, will be able to deliver. Otherwise, it just becomes a talk shop. So these kind of discussions are going to take place for the next couple of months. We're going to have debates. We're going to have people must agree to disagree. As the saying goes, you play the ball, don't play the individual. Hanif Hassan may have been here as a rep, but he made his point. But make your point and play the ball. If you play the man, then it's a foul. So inshallah, going forward, we're going to have more discussions. We're going to start having debates. But we're also going to add on other topical issues, because currently we know the turmoil that's taking place in the Middle East. And at the moment, there seem to be a ceasefire that's, creating some kind of stability in the markets. Our economist couldn't make it this evening. But inshallah, next week he will join us and we will give an update on the impact of, the financial impact of the instability abroad. And we know that when the price of petrol, oil fluctuates, the price of petrol goes up and it impacts on people's pockets. And we know yesterday the price of petrol went up by R1.43, diesel came down, but still it's quite high, and that needs to stabilize. And the question that our local people are asking is, why is America controlling the economy when they produce very little? So on that note, we need to conclude. We must thank our listeners for listening and being awake till so late in the night. Thank our guests that joined us this evening. They added value. They're quite experienced guys, and we look forward to having more shows with many more guests from different parties, inshallah. And we'll give everybody an opportunity to express themselves so that those listeners who become voters out there would be able to vote appropriately for a party that truly represents them. On a closing note, we must always remember that this is the month of Zul Hajj. We must ensure that the good amals we did in the first 10 days of Zul Hajj, we continue with those amals, keep up to our 5 times salah, obey the commandments of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam is reported to have said that the best amongst us are those with the best character. And who got the best character is the one who obeys Allah's commandments as shown to us by Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam. We represent all people in the world. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala addressed in the Quran that He's addressing the nation. Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam worked with all communities, and as such, our efforts must be to assist all our people, the entire mankind, and inshallah get them to obey Allah's commandments as shown to us by Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam. On that note, shukran for joining us this evening. Until next Wednesday, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Listen to News in Focus on Radio Al Ansar, Durban 90.4 and Petermaritzburg 105.6 FM.